Exhausted, and with some of us wounded, we finally arrive in Aachen and head straight to Haermond to deliver the good news. A swirl of dust rises as I lay the monster's massive stinger at his feet.
Someone true to their word at last. A stinger scorpion, then. Well done, Vagrus. I assume it was no easy fight. Here, your reward. Oh, and I'll make sure everyone hears about this. Was about time someone competent came along.
I pocket the reward, but I can't help thinking about the condition of my two companions.
It was the right thing to do, Vagrus.
All of this made me realize that the men who work for me do so of their own free will, and that I haven't forced anyone to follow me on this quest. And deep down, I know it was the right thing to do. Therefore, helping Miss Candake can't be wrong, even if she doesn't pay me. So, I take on a few contracts for Torzag and Lumen. There, I'll make the necessary purchases. I make a good profit reselling the marble I bought in Aachen, which partly offsets the cost of copper and wood. I don't quite understand what's going on, but all the major houses seem eager to do business with Lumen. So I invest in a new pack beast and a few more workers before closing any deals. I take the opportunity to buy pottery, remembering that demand is high in Lumen. About an hour after the Comitatus settles down, a terrible shriek pierces the night. Many of my crew jump out of their bedrolls, weapons drawn, but the howl is distant enough not to be an immediate threat. People are about to return to bed when another scream is heard. Then, another one, and another one. It goes on for hours, and the originator seems to wander around the camp, always out of sight under the cover of darkness. A group of guards eventually set out in a bad mood to find the source of the howls and kill it or scare it, but they do not find anything. After hours of the bone-chilling screams, the howler disappears. After delivering all my goods, I head with my men to Miss Candake's estate. To my pleasant surprise, she reached for a pouch at her belt and laid several stacks of bross on her desk, more than enough to cover my expenses, with a profit on top.
Well, isn't that nice? We are actually making progress. Did you know that the fraction of yellow light through obsidian and flavocrystal can be used to measure the seismic activity in our expedition's region?
What the Domino is suggesting of that, it's those goods that we need you to procure.
Without any problem.
That woman looks crazy.
Granted, but she pays in cash, and with a generous profit. Besides, it puts us in the Empire's good graces, and it's never a bad thing to have them owe us a favor. After a few conversations, I believe that within 1 or 2 more deliveries for the Loaders Guild, I should be in a position to negotiate with a higher tier of leadership. Unfortunately, there's little demand for Torzag. The only way to avoid wasting a trip is to invest heavily in blue crystal. Since Miss Candake is paying me, I've analyzed my various options for acquiring the requested resources. Obtaining obsidian won't be an issue. There are 2 quarries nearby. But when it comes to the crystal, that's a different matter. Based on my notes, the most affordable source is near Lumen. If blue crystal forests exist, then there's likely a yellow one somewhere too. I'll need to investigate. Returning to Lumen right now wouldn't be wise. I'd rather diversify my destinations and stay up to date. No transport offers from the Loaders Guild. So be it. I quickly purchased pottery and linen, which I recall were in high demand in Aachen. I can't help but notice a certain bond has formed between Gor'goro and me. He follows me on nearly all of my movements. So tonight, I decide to speak with him. As always, I find him training.
Evening, Vagrus. What brings you here?
Tell me a bit about yourself.
I have had a long history of tournaments, mercenary work, and duels. Not sure if there is a point in recounting all of it. Is there something specific you'd like to talk about?
How did you become friends with Dryas?
Him and I go way back before Driana, his daughter, was born. Back before he lost his wife. Terrible thing. A real tragedy, Vagrus. But Dryas is not a man to lose hope easily, and he would not let his little girl down. Anyway, we met many years ago and trained together, and he taught me many things. I will forever be in his debt. Not only for being my teacher, but for his friendship from the very beginning. We made a good team, him and I. We even won some interesting matches. But then his tragedy robbed us of a common path, and he retired from active combat to become a full-time doctoree, a person who trains gladiators and whoever else pays for it. He moved to Torzag and founded his school there. From then on, I only visited him from time to time, as I was on the move a lot, taking part in tournaments and working as a merc. That is what our friendship is like.
Where are you from?
I come from a humble tribal background, believe it or not. Most of us orcs do. Not something I like to talk about.
How do the gladiator circuits work?
There's quite a few, actually. Gladiator business is booming, so to say. You can find arenas, pit fights, and even display matches in several sizable settlements. Just tell me which one you want to learn about.
What can you tell me about the Bestiari arena in Torzag?
That arena, as the name implies, is exclusively for fights against beasts and monsters. Not true gladiator work, at least according to most of the Lannistas. Yet, due to its popularity and brutality, it makes quite a profit in the shelter. If you're thinking about entering the lists, I recommend checking out the creatures before committing to a fight. There's no shame in backing out if you think the team can't handle it. But I'd say most fights are manageable, with 4 very good fighters. The one who runs the place? Maldarian. He's a clever old mage, but he's also a very influential man. So winning fights might get you his attention, and maybe even some work. I hear he sometimes looks for Vagrus for special deliveries.
That is indeed most interesting information. During my travels, I've heard tales of individuals said to possess magical powers. Truth? Lie? I've never seen one in action myself. But then again, the dead do walk among us. And what of the Mercatus Games?
Mercatus Games are one of the greatest, most important gladiatorial traditions in the Empire. Lanistas from all over the realm flock to the grand cities, or even smaller towns, for locally organized games during the month of Caldarius each year. In the largest settlements, monks of St. Mercatus prepare games and feasts for a week at the peak of that month to celebrate trade and prosperity. And every few years, the games become truly special. That's when big cities like Torzag, Hadrinium, or the capital host the most impressive and complex gladiatorial contests in the realm, held in honor of the slumbering emperor. There's really nothing that compares to those games. Perhaps you've seen them before. At any rate, one day I'd like to enter the lists again, even though I've said I'm retired from the arena. But never say never, right?
I believe I've found the way to get this warrior to open up to me. I'll consider looking into a possible registration at the arenas. Good night, Gor'goro.
You too, Vagrus.
More and more great houses are willing to do business with me, likely thanks to Haermond, who has been spreading word of our exploits. Once again, I find myself compelled to travel to Lumen to negotiate with the Loaders Guild. So be it. The merchants are starting to recognize me, and my mounts are quickly loaded with cargo. I also hear some news about Devon, a future destination perhaps. My savings continue to grow, and with them, new opportunities arise. After finalizing my latest contracts, I set off toward the Dryas complex. Sounds of ongoing training can be heard echoing down the spacious halls, the clash of bone-sparring weapons, the yelling of instructors. Dryas himself appears shortly to greet us. He shakes my hand and hugs Gor'goro. We sit down and drink some mushroom wine and talk about our travels. Driana appears and sits in Gor'goro's lap, all big eyes and quiet admiration. It is comforting to see such joy in these dark times. I decide that my comitatus deserves a night in the city, enjoying the safety of its walls. Over the evening, I learn that there is a mage in Lumen who specializes in crystals. Perhaps he can help me with my yellow crystal problem. The profits are a real pleasure, and I feel I'm close to receiving more enticing offers from the Loaders Guild. Not knowing where this potential mage might be, I head toward the most reliable source of information, the local markets. It's a typically hot day for this city, and the fabric wall meant to shield it from the heat only manages to hold back the worst of the blazing air. The atmosphere is stifling, almost searing against the skin. Only a few merchants are present, huddled in the shade of awnings and parasols.
You must be out of your mind, standing out there in the open like that. You're not from around here, are you?
What kind of business brought you here?
I was right. You're not from around here. Why, I'm in the same business as most everybody else around here. Crystals. Harvesting, buying, selling, processing them. That and the various logistical challenges associated with them. House Okwo, Bedvios, and to some extent, the damn Darius folks are all in the crystal business. A dangerous but rewarding enterprise.
What can you tell me about the crystal forests?
Surely you saw it while approaching Lumen. The one in the vicinity of Lumen is called the South Calorus and yields the finest blue crystals in the whole of the empire. Except for maybe Sargot Kala. The Kalari are dangerous places. Apart from the crystal creatures roaming their labyrinthine pathways, they constantly reflect the light and heat of the sun, concentrating and enhancing them to lethal levels. Even during the hours of dawn and dusk, one can only venture there with special protective equipment, black glass goggles, and absorbent reflective heat blankets for beasts of burden and other animals. And that's not all, for even thus equipped, one will need an enchanted shielding crystal and a good sorcerer on one's team to cast a constant protective aura to block the heat.
What about the other crystal forest north of the South Calorus?
Oh, the North Calorus is a different story. The crystal there is of lesser quality and all sorts of weird critters wander its confines.
What practical use do their crystals have?
Crystals are the raw materials of diverse and manifold uses. They can be carved and shaped to produce tools and weapons, but the rarer ones can be enchanted, for example, to store light or magical energy. They are a valuable resource, well worth the risk of venturing into the crystal forests. But that is mostly the Cerilios crystal, you see, the blue one. Flavo, the yellow one, is quite worthless in comparison. But, well, it does have its own uses, I suppose. Elsewise, nobody would bother harvesting it at the Flavo Calorus out west. Am I right?
I knew it. There truly is a yellow crystal forest, and likely a town or village nearby. Where can I get the necessary equipment?
Goggles for the crew and covers for animals are easy. You can simply buy them right here in Lumen in the marketplace if you have the coin. The shielding crystal required to cast a protective aura is trickier. They're highly in demand, relatively rare, and must also be magically imbued by a competent crystalmancer. Right now, there is a shortage of them in Lumen, but if you are interested in getting your hands on one, you should consult with Shebeni. She's a local crystalmancer dwelling in an underground vault not far from the marketplace, and she's currently looking for someone to accomplish a task for her, if I heard correctly.
Is there a town near Flavo Calorus?
Of course, the town of Crystal.
I quickly ask the merchant if he can mark its location on my map, which he agrees to do in exchange for a coin.